An agent disguised as a cleaning lady sneaks into the men's room for a secret mission, runs into a guy spraying water everywhere, a careless glance, and she catches something familiar. Could it be him? That darn sense of recognition. Our tale begins 3 years ago. Su-ji is a high-level agent for the Korean Security Service. Her identity is secret even to her family. To get close to her targets, she often assumes various roles. On this day, while she's on a mission under the guise of a fake marriage, her boyfriend Jae-jun suddenly calls.
지금 미팅 중이니까 이따 다시 통화하자. 응?
어디야? 내가 그쪽으로 갈게.
아니야 오지 마. 내가 지금 여기 울릉도야.
또?
재준아, 내가 너 사랑하는 거 알지? 이따 다시 전화할게. 끊어.
Just as her mission's target makes a getaway by boat, she hurriedly mounts a jet ski in pursuit. Jae-jun calls again, but this time it goes unanswered, turning into a voicemail.
아침에 강화도 갔더니 점심 때 울릉도라고? 너는 똑같은 남자 만나서 지긋지긋하게 당해야 돼. 야 나쁜 사람!
After completing her mission, Suzy becomes extremely anxious upon hearing the voicemail. She steals a motorcycle and dashes to the airport, only to be stopped by security, who discover a pistol strapped to her leg. Mistaken for a jilted bride seeking revenge, swarmed by guards. From that moment on, Suzy's boyfriend disappeared, and Suzy grew to despise him deeply. 3 years later, the security service uncovers a traitor within a domestic biological research institute planning to sell an avian flu antigen to country W. This antigen could become a devastating virus capable of wiping out Seoul in just 6 minutes. This antigen could transform into a horrific virus, capable of decimating the entire city of Seoul in just 6 minutes. Su-ji's mission is to get close to the researcher and implant a tracker in his behind. The tiny device causes only a momentary numbness, leading the traitor to think nothing of it. The mission goes smoothly until she unexpectedly runs into her boyfriend, who vanished 3 years ago. In their first meeting after 3 years, Su-ji shoves him into a cesspit with a mop. The commotion they cause gets them taken to the police station for questioning, where they manage to make 3 bewildered police officers feel completely ignored as they stick to their own stories. It turns out Jae-jun is also an agent, allegedly going to Canada for studies. He was actually overseas for training and has now joined the National Intelligence Service's Foreign Intelligence Division as a newbie. However, he and Su-ji are in different departments, so they're unaware of each other's identities. Jae-jun then shares intelligence he's received. A Russian agent has entered the country under the guise of a trade representative, likely part of a larger plot. Before he can finish, the director hurries to organize a response. Jae-jun's task is to disguise himself as a hotel waiter to install a bug in the Russian agent's room. A job he executes with such skill it's as if he's daring someone to spot a flaw.
죄송합니다.
If surveillance won't cut it, then it's time to switch to tailing. Jae-jun parked the taxi at the hotel entrance, and when a lady tried to get in, he quickly locked the doors and alarm. After a long wait for the target to appear, he then drives his car in front of the Russian agent. Jae-jun attempts to swerve and let the Russian agent overtake, but unexpectedly, the agent just continues to tail him closely, simply because in Korea, trailing a taxi is the quickest route. Just as his team leader was about to chew him out, the Russian agent's car sped past them, bringing joy to Jae-jun. He trailed the Russian spy to the amusement park, where, guided by his keen intuition, he took a seat next to the researcher set to confront the Russians. Using a tiny flyer as his cover, the Russian agent caught sight of the bumbling fool in a heartbeat, promptly axed the deal, and made a quick getaway. Jae-jun pressed on with his tailing but stumbled upon Su-ji, who was ingeniously disguised as a pregnant woman. He was utterly baffled, unable to fathom how her belly had grown so much in just a few days. Given the urgency of the mission, Su-ji had no time to offer explanations. Su-ji followed the researcher towards a haunted house, but was stopped by staff warning that pregnant women weren't allowed. Tearfully, she had to reveal her 8-month pregnant disguise. Meanwhile, Jae-jun followed his target into a model museum. He was instantly petrified by the gun aimed at him, his face turning pale. Turns out, it was just a mannequin. Before he could catch his breath, the Russian agent unloaded a barrage of shots. missing every single one. Ultimately, neither succeeded in their pursuit and ended up startling the quarry, each earning a scolding from their leaders for their botched efforts. That evening, a dejected Jae-jun sought out Su-ji for consolation. A silent night, yet it speaks volumes beyond words. Jae-jun received a call from his captain about an urgent mission and was instructed to regroup quickly. Likewise, Su-ji got a call from her team about a mission that required her immediate presence. Both ended up at the same nightclub, each adopting a different disguise, one as a hostess mingling with guests, the other as a pleasure-seeking reveler. Jae-jun discovered that a South Korean researcher and a Russian agent were exchanging messages through a captivating Russian woman. Leveraging his fluent Russian peppered with charm, he made the woman irresistibly attracted to him, eagerly throwing herself into his arms. However, as if it was bound to happen, an unexpected turn of events occurred. The two ended up getting caught in a brawl and were detained by the police once again. As emotions ran high, their operation was compromised and ultimately failed. The researcher and the Russian agent managed to meet up successfully. However, for safety's sake, they didn't proceed with the trade immediately but agreed to exchange cash for goods at their next meeting. On the other side, following the failure of their mission, both departments started investigating the amusement park surveillance footage. The Overseas Investigation Bureau discovered a pregnant woman running faster than a dog in the footage, which they found highly suspicious. Meanwhile, the Domestic Investigation Bureau spotted a suspect skulking about. Each organization suspected these individuals to be the real contact person for their adversary. Thus, two heartbroken individuals found themselves on opposite sides. Leveraging their deep understanding of each other, they managed to unveil each other's secrets, all rooted in a past where they once loved deeply. Then, their respective organizations orchestrated a setup, convincing them to invite each other out with the ulterior motive of planting listening devices on one another. The meeting was set in a small restaurant, ostensibly to probe for information, but the conversation quickly turned to past sweetness and then to accusations of unfaithfulness in love. One was a nightclub hostess, and the other a reveler seeking pleasure at nightclubs. The more they talked, the angrier they got, eventually breaking down and hammering at each other with small mallets. Su-ji, furious, stormed off. Their leaders urgently reminded them that the listening devices had not yet been installed. In a bind, they contemplated a friendly farewell as a solution.
사랑은 했었다. 진심으로.
진짜로 미워할 거야.
Back home, Jae-jun killed time playing poker when he suddenly recalled how the Russian agent enjoyed card games with her subordinates, all following specific patterns. Through deduction, he figured out it signaled the next meeting spot. Seeing a chance to make a mark, he rushed to the location. Unexpectedly, the Russian agent turned out to be a woman. Explaining her knack for evading capture, Jae-jun then pulled out his phone to document this significant discovery. Just then, a police car passing by hit Jae-jun, inadvertently saving his life. He quickly sent the photo to his captain, asking him to dig into this beauty's background on his computer. The captain mentioned needing a password, leaving Jae-jun slightly embarrassed, but he disclosed it after hesitating.
사장님, 띄고 개새끼입니다.
나중에 네 후니까 찾으면 그 새끼부터 죽을 줄 알아. 띄우고 개새끼.
Investigation revealed that Sonia was not an agent but an entrepreneur, which explained her poor shooting skills. Their search pinpointed the transaction location at a local ancient city ruin. Meanwhile, Su-ji, tailing a researcher, also arrived at this ancient city. However, his identity had been compromised, and he fell into a trap, helplessly watching the rebels exchange a virus. Jae-jun arrived at the ancient city and tapped into its surveillance. Spotting Sonia inside, he had the police wait outside while he ventured alone into the den. At that moment, Sonia was about to eliminate Su-ji. In a crucial moment, she used her laser watch to burn through the ropes and escape to the door, only to be met by a heartbroken Jae-jun with a gun to her head. Next, Jae-jun took Su-ji hostage, leaving the villains bewildered. Sonia fired the first shot, with Jae-jun shielding Su-ji, thankfully wearing a bulletproof vest. Enraged, Su-ji engaged in a fierce battle with Sonia, from indoors to outdoors. Together, they overpowered Sonia, who in desperation decided to release the virus, aiming for mutual destruction. Luckily, Jae-jun caught the virus, saving not just themselves but also clearing up the misunderstanding. Under everyone's gaze, they shared a passionate kiss,